So our first presenter is Alex Wu from Rhino Industries, and just a few seconds, I'll say start your pitch. And for everybody else in the room, just make sure that you've muted. Okay, go ahead.
Can you guys see my screen fine? Okay. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to start off today's rocket pitch. My name is Alex Wu, and I'm the founder of Rhino Industry. First of all, I'd like to ask you a question. Please raise your hand if you think Tesla is a sustainable vehicle. I see a few hands, I think. So the truth is, it is not. And in fact, there's barely any sustainable electric vehicles today, because Tesla told us that they save more than 4 million tons of CO2 up to today. But what they didn't tell you is the 14 million tons of CO2 that they pumped into the atmosphere by making their cars with unsustainable materials like aluminum. The problem isn't Tesla. The problem is the industrial material that we rely on for centuries. They're critical parts of the root cause of global warming. And almost everything we have in our everyday life are made from unsustainable materials. Products like cars, planes, buildings, to the very own laptop we're using right now are all emitting tons of CO2 in the makings. And the crazy thing is that we cannot stop making them. Then how do we break this vicious cycle? We need to change the way we make everything, or as many things as we can. And that's where Rhino Industry brings the solution. Inspired by Henry Ford, who once said, "Make everything possible from plants." Rhino Industry's mission is to advance our world into a positive industrial ecosystem. The way we accomplish that is by developing natural fiber composites that are made from plants, which means they're renewable, cheaper to produce, safer for workers to handle, and truly sustainable from seed to product recycle. And I know what you're thinking. Our composites are not only comparable, but even outperforms traditional materials like metals and carbon fibers and fiberglass in terms of some mechanical perspectives. So with these qualities, our composites are the more attractive alternatives for manufacturers, as we are a B2B raw material supplier who focuses on supplying an ever-growing $6 billion market, which includes the industry we talked about, from consumer goods to aerospace. Rhino aims to first enter the versatile, quick-to-adapt consumer goods market, which is around $500 million today. And we're keen to focus on sporting goods and utility gadgets to establish ourselves before expanding horizontally. So we have, in terms of the team, we have a sole founder team with a seasoned engineering advisor. And we are all passionate believers of a greener and efficient future. We're currently looking for like-minded talents, co-founders, and advisors who are not afraid to challenge the status quo. So if you believe in our mission or know someone else who will believe in it too, please talk to us, let us know, and join the movement to transform our industrial sector. Rhino Industry, thank you.
Okay, just in time. So let's start the feedback. So everyone, we're giving feedback, not questions. So the presenter is instructed not to speak during this comment section. So let's have the participants add their comments. You can put some in the chat, but I'd also encourage you just to speak up.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Sure. Well, he's not able to answer, unfortunately, but a comment, you could just say a question that he needs to address.
Okay, thank you.
So any comments? I had one thing that I wanted to mention for Alex is just thinking about next steps, because this is a really big project. And so what would be your next step so that you can get a little bit further with this opportunity without a huge amount of investment, and just shape your opportunity in a way that can make it later more attractive to investors? But it looks like you have a good, talented team. Okay. Any
If I
other?
may, I'd like to make a comment.
Sure, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, there was a discussion about the impact on Tesla with respect to making a car, but there was no discussion about the environmental impact of growing, harvesting, the whole agricultural, economic or environmental impact. So I think it would be disingenuous to say there's really no environmental impact with respect to growing and harvesting something that is a sustainable resource, because a lot of energy is put into, and fertilizers and so forth are put into growing a natural product, and that seemed to be ignored.
Okay. Yeah, and it looks like from Bill Rourke, do you want to also mention that your comment, it looks like it's related to what Paul just said?
Yeah. So with my question is like, what would be your carbon footprint, and like how would that be different from Tesla? Because obviously Tesla is like an electric car. Like, how would you extract these raw materials without leaving a bigger footprint or the same footprint as Tesla and other companies?
Okay, yeah. And then KP is asking, so KP, do you want to talk about your question on the fiber you use and then discuss the prototype? So could you elaborate on that? It would be great. Oh, okay, I think, let's go to Brad Johnson. Had something in the chat, understanding your initial target market. So Brad, could you expand on your comment?
Yeah, Alex, thanks. It was a great job. I was just a little confused because it started talking more about automobiles, but I was a little confused on where you're initially going to focus the energy of the company. That was just a clarification question.
Okay, all right. So talking about cars, but yeah, focusing on another segment. Okay, great. Other thoughts, other comments?
Can I advise you, Alex? Because I have a vast experience working in industry, and when you are talking about composite, still there is a challenge, because metals is iron particularly is most recyclable product. So just think about it when you're competing your fiber with the materials, because the formability, the kind of properties that you are talking about, just not about the carbon emission. Also think about the requirement of like automotive industry as well.
Okay, great. And Zach, do you want to speak? Oh, Zach's mic is not working. And he just said you'll need to think about IP. Thanks, Zach. So great job, Alex. Oh, is somebody speaking?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. Hi,
Oh.
Zach.
All right, I guess I figured it out. Similar to some of the other comments that you're getting, this is going to be, if you're playing in the value chain around developing new fibers, you're going to need to think about IP. But if you're thinking about producing, you need to acquire a license for that. So just need to figure out where you're going to play in the value chain.
Great. Yes, you're in room 2. We are in the energy and tech mobile room. Just to answer a question in the chat. right. Okay, so we're going to stop feedback. Thank you very much, Alex, and best of luck moving forward. So we will have the next pitch, which will be Santi Capoletta with Tra-M Delivery. And so go ahead and get your slides, start sharing your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Okay. Yep, we can see it. And so you can just do the slideshow mode, and in a few seconds we'll be ready to get started. I'll give you a signal. So everybody else can mute if they haven't already. Okay, go ahead and start.
Did you know that the average person spends more than 45 minutes shopping for groceries every week? This doesn't even include the time it takes them to get there, park their cars, and then get a trolley. And in addition to that, many of you may know that supermarkets and grocery stores are two of the highest risk places to spreading COVID. So my question to you is, why would you put at risk your health and that of others if I told you there is a faster, safer, and more efficient way to order your groceries? Hi everyone, my name is Santi and I would like to introduce you to Tra-M Delivery, the first ever grocery delivery platform that is fully integrated in WhatsApp. But why WhatsApp, you may ask? Why not a mobile app? Well, in my target market in Argentina, over 85% of grocery shoppers are above the age of 40, and they have reportedly admitted that they struggle with mobile apps. However, 75% of them actively use WhatsApp as a means of communication. So I thought that integrating this chatbot into WhatsApp would make it a lot easier for these users to use our service. Even better, they can do so in 5 very simple steps. When they text the chatbot, first they will be asked for their names. Then they will have to select a store. Third, they send a list of items with their preferred brand names. Fourth, they send the address or location where they want to receive their order. And finally, they make a payment through the link they receive. That's it. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes compared to 45 that it would take you to go to the grocery store in person. So how amazing is that? Now let me talk a little bit about how we're gonna make money. There are 2 revenue streams for Tra-M. One is stores, which will pay a 10% sales commission based on the orders placed through us. And the second one is individual customers, who will pay a fixed delivery fee. Regarding our industry, a report by Bank of America estimates that by 2025, more than $700 billion will be achieved in sales of online groceries. Not only that, but the 15% rate of growth we have seen so far will continue to escalate, bringing millions of new shoppers every year. Industry leaders have realized this rapid segment within their market and have taken action accordingly. We see that they have hired hundreds of thousands of new shoppers this year. They're in the process of developing breakthrough technologies. And of course, due to COVID, they have seen their sales skyrocket. So I really do believe that Tra-M has the potential to pioneer the grocery industry in South America. So I'm asking you, what are you waiting for to join us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's start our feedback. So anybody have comments?
A couple of things to consider. Grocery stores operate on really low margins, and taking a 10% commission on that is probably a no-go. Not only that, you're adding labor costs to them, because when you go to a grocery store, you do all the labor of picking out the goods. Now you're sending an order to the grocery store, and unless they already have delivery, they're having to send a worker up and down the aisles to get the goods. And so the value proposition from the grocery store may not be so clear. So just consider that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thanks, Zach. Other comments?
So as a Latin American student, I think that is very nice that he actually tried to implement and did it through WhatsApp, because seeing as how Latin America and South America usually doesn't get access to many apps for delivery that the US does, WhatsApp is something that can be globally and something that could emphasize and help the company grow. So just want to comment on that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I have I just want to take it as suggestion or just for competitor analysis. There is available, you can order directly from Whole Foods. Why I would like to order from you? I mean, that is one. And right, like Amazon and everywhere places, you can click your website, you can select the items, and you can, without paying even extra fee that you are charging. So just think about the competition that these stores themselves are delivering for online services.
And Brad, did you want to elaborate on your comment that you made? Well, you agreed with Zach about the high margins for the store,
Sure,
high
sure.
fee.
Oh, Sante, great job. I just had a question. Is there any restrictions to working with WhatsApp to get it integrated and started? And the second part is, how are you going to get the information out of WhatsApp and feed it into the grocery store to pick the orders?
Okay.
Would be my question. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Rodrigo? Okay. Rodrigo, do you want to share what your comment or elaborate on it? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rodrigo has a problem with the mic, but the comment is, why will people choose this instead of Uber or another app? I'm also wondering the market and consumer behavior. Do they tend to shop at one store and it's just connecting in with that one store? Or is this something where they might want WhatsApp and then connect into a variety of stores? And Iago, in Brazil, it's rare. Okay. We've got people from all over the world, which is really great to be able to tap into this. And KP, offering. Yeah, I mean, grocery stores already offer the home delivery. Maybe they have staff that knows where everything is. They can pick out everything, if they have efficient methods for doing that. So maybe thinking about the whole customer journey might be important too. That what is the journey that the customer goes through? How can you improve on that? And how does it work with the grocery stores right now? Okay. All right, anything else? Anybody else? Looks like we have about another minute or so. Yeah, Emily, do you want to talk more about your comment?
Yeah, I was just wondering how obviously you can't replicate the full grocery experience over an app. Usually when you're in the store, you see different varieties and then you have more information to be able to pick your choice. If somebody's saying, oh, I would love spaghetti, and there's a lot of different varieties, are they going to opt for the cheapest one, the most expensive one, just do it randomly? Wondering how that would go into play.
Yeah, a good point. So how do you actually order specific brands, right? Okay. And Nico? you want to talk a little bit more? I think we might have a minute or so. Other type of retail stores. Oh, looks like we're stopping feedback. So anyway, lots of great stuff. Thank you, everybody. So we are next going with Right Flight, and the presenter will be Justin McAfee. And so in a few, probably about 30, 40 seconds. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. So I will signal in a second that you will get started.
So I'm going to say a couple of sentences just so that I can actually pop up to everybody's screens.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Cool. When was the last time that you guys had sticker shock for an airfare price? Well, it was probably 9 months ago before COVID, but that's a completely separate conversation. And now think back to that flight or a flight when you were sitting at a window seat and you were looking outside, kind of dreaming about that vacation tan, and you were looking kind of off at the side and there's the jet turbine that's just kind of whirring in the distance. Well, every single minute that you were sitting on the tarmac before your flight, that jet turbine was burning $1,300 a minute. Gone. And that's 60% of your airfare. Jet turbines, in essence, are absolute dinosaurs. They haven't changed since the 1950s. The general premise behind jet turbines is the same thing. You compress air, you put it into a combustion chamber, the air expands, it gets thrown into a turbine, and the flame itself creates the thrust that's necessary to actually propel the airplane forward. There's so much excess weight, and Wright Inc. is here to change that. What we're going to do is we're going to completely get rid of 33% of the engine. We're going to completely eradicate that central shaft, and we're going to electrify the entire experience so that it's a completely separate jet engine. And how are we going to do that? Well, it's actually a pretty simple concept. So I've been working on this idea for 10 years. I put it down on a piece of paper. And now that I'm at Babson, I've actually got a rock star team behind me. We've actually put together 3 experiments, and we've actually designed it into solid modeling, computer analysis. We've actually done CFD analysis, and we've also done electromagnetic analysis on top of that. And this next year, we're actually going to be prototyping each of these 3 experiments so that we can actually move forward and put a legitimate engine on the table so that you can actually have your socks blown off. And then past that, we're going to become a tier 1 manufacturer for drone companies so that your drone experience isn't just this whirring of a propeller. It's a quiet, simple turbine, changing the way that we fly with the right turbine. Thank you. Oof.
Donna, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm muting and unmuting constantly, so thank you for reminding me. So Zach is saying, where does the 1,300 a minute? I think that means 13 for the total flight. And the flight to LA, does that cost 480,000? Yeah, we'll have to do the math on that. So other comments, so go ahead. Got a lot of comments here. Mike Gillerin, what about your engine design makes it scalable for both airplane use and on drones? That's actually a good point, because it's a big opportunity. And could you start with drones, right? And then eventually move to airplanes, because those are two really very different scales. So that might be something to think about. Introduction's very good. And passenger drones, that would be interesting, Pratish. I also had a comment too that, again, it's a big idea, but I didn't really understand how you were going to do it. Again, I don't know a lot about the jet industry, but you might, in a way that you could pitch to your grandmother, try to communicate how you're actually going to do it. The other thing is the legitimacy of the team. So it sounded like you said you have an experienced team. It'd be great to really expand on that. Do you have work experience in the industry, education levels, number of years? It would be good to really pitch the legitimacy of the team. We've also used some acronyms that, I know what CAD is, but CFD, CEM, that's something that might not be familiar to everybody. So always be careful about the use of acronyms. Okay, other comments?
Yeah, why should, I'm playing devil's advocate, why should companies like United switch over to these engines? Because it's going to cost millions of dollars, and it's going to delay their flights to and from Chicago to LA, where they're making plenty of money, but then they're going to have to stall their planes, switch out these engines, and then they've already invested $4 million in this one engine, and then they got to switch it out for an electric one. Why should they do that? I feel like you need to make that more clear of how much you're saving when you go electric over the period of time that these other engines.
Okay. Great. Other questions or comments? Again, the pitchers do not respond, but even if you have a question, it's relevant, because it may be something that they build into their next pitch, that they need to make sure that they address that in their pitch.
Justin, this is Luke Stein in the finance division. I've heard you talk about this project at greater length. But I would suggest that even in 3 minutes, you make room to highlight the massive environmental benefits that your project offers also. Every dollar that you're saving in fuel is also carbon that you're keeping from being emitted, and in particular that you're keeping from being emitted high up in the atmosphere, where I understand its impact is particularly significant. So you have not just a cost saver, you have potentially an environmental slam dunk, and I don't think you want to let anybody miss that.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Okay, and then I think KP, you said that your mic isn't working, but you've got some good comments in the chat. Consider upcoming technology that might disrupt turbine industry altogether. 15 years of research becoming outdated by the time you launch. Okay. Other.
I think Carl had a question.
Carl?
Yes, sorry, I've been trouble operating the Zoom.
Can we change the room to see multiple?
Hold on, there we go. Okay.
Great.
So I just have a couple of questions, because one, what is the qualification process for these turbines? Now, I obviously have a lot of questions on the physics of the turbines. There's a reason why there's a big movement towards hydrogen for airplanes in terms of being able to transport that mass. I see a lot of potential here for drones, but obviously there are many different steps in the process before putting this on a plane. Generally, just looking at how you described, and I'm sorry to be the devil's advocate, but following a bit of what's happening in space propulsion as well, they're really looking at using hydrogen that is basically pushed with nuclear propulsion. So you have a lot of mini reactors being developed for that. Basically, what I understood is your engine, you remove the fuel tank part, but I'm having trouble understanding, is your product a battery, or is it an actual turbine, because there needs to be something that turns the turbine. So it's twofold. It's one, how does the technology work really? And two, what is the qualification process to get there? Is it the FAA?
Yep, government would be important. I think Justin's also bringing that up. So great. So we're now on to the next, getting ready for the next presentation to queue up. So thank you. Thank you, Justin. Great, enthusiastic presentation. And Anandita Jha, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce, will be the next presenter with Our Voice. And so go ahead and share your screen and pull up your slides. Okay, you could go ahead and start.
So a few months back, I wanted to get involved in my political landscape, and the only way I knew was to vote. So I started looking up some bills that were being passed and see if I could weigh in. And this is what I was faced with: an unfriendly, outdated platform where, coming from a background where I didn't know anything about politics, this was not something I could deal with. And turns out in the survey, I was not alone. There was 70% of students that wanted to get involved in political movements as they were interested. 80% said they were interested in social movements, but 77% said that knowledge was a barrier to getting involved. So this is where the solution, Our Voice, comes in. It's a mobile application which recommends best items for your interests. You'll be able to get information only from verified organizations so that there's no misinformation being there. And there are easy action items you can follow, such as calling your representative, signing petitions, without trying to think what you should do. You can filter the issues you care about, so like the environment. You will find helpful descriptions of legislation to increase your knowledge about the political landscape and not be clueless. And there are collective goals that will be showcased so that you know that you're not alone. There's a whole community out there taking action too. To sustain our mobile app, we hope to tap into the facts that more than 90% of 2018 campaign ad spend was for mobile devices. And $14 billion just alone was spent on our congressional and presidential campaigns in 2020. So our traction. We are created our MVP through a website through which we hope to gain user base, gather data such as which actions users are interested in getting involved with, and get user feedback on what features they want to see and what could be improved. Till date, we have done our market research, registered as an LLC, created our low fidelity prototype, done user interviews, and we have our brand kit and website. If we're launching our MVP on November 19th, so if you want to get involved, look up www.ovtakeaction.com. And if you have any questions or want to get involved or know about app development, we would love to hear from you at ourvoicemobileapp@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. So let's start the comment period. Any comments from Anandita?
Hi, Anna, this is Zach. Really interesting idea. I think this is getting into a very competitive or crowded area. So I would start thinking about your strategy to acquire users. And you can think of maybe going into one college like Babson to start with and pick a few issues that they're really interested in, and then hopefully build up some momentum that way.
Yeah, Zach, you bring up a really good point, is about market focus and how do you serve a specific market well. I didn't hear so much about who you were serving. So you might think about, how are you going to serve a particular market? Did a great job with the prototype and making that comparison with that personal story and what you encountered there, and also just what you've done so far, that you've achieved some milestones and then ending with a call for action and having people actually participate. So some of those things you hit spot on. And I see that the target market is college students. Charlie, do you want to? Yeah, it's also asking who is your target market and who did you survey to collect the results. So you can mention that too, a little bit of clarification on some details on the survey. And Connor, you want to talk a little bit more about your comment?
Yeah, I love the idea, but just saying college students is a little squishy, I think. I think there's a lot of types of college students. So really dial in with the psychographics. I actually want to send you guys an email after this, so we can talk offline.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks. Yep, target market, college students, very broad. It could be maybe even colleges, right? So maybe what they're studying and other demographics. Okay, other feedback.
Happy to go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well,
yeah.
I think and jumping off what Connor said, there are really two approaches you can have to this. Either you have a very fixed market that you're trying to appeal to get download on your app, or you can use this as a way to gather data. Because for example, in the question there is the two-party system, frustrated with the two-party system. This app, if a proper way of collecting data, could actually give birth to other parties, and that I don't think is really the scope of what you want to do right now. It's, if anything, be an aggregator of all that information, because right now you don't have a whole lot of apps that get a real sense of where people position themselves. If there's anything we've learned from the social dilemma, is that there's a perpetuation of echo chambers on social media. But here what you're doing is providing a platform where people can basically say what they think. And interestingly enough, this is actually an idea that I had about 6 years ago. But the notion of being able to also control the flip-flopping of politicians and being able to have like notifications when you have a congressman or a representative that basically switches his position on something. And so it would push politicians to do less of that. So I'm just giving a bunch of examples of how you can just picture yourself in your role in society. I think you should be clearer with that, more so than necessarily your target market at this point. Because I really think that, on the contrary, you don't want to fall into the trap of targeting one group in particular and ending up having a very monotonous source of data. I think if you target colleges in Massachusetts, you're going to have more or less the same data.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're suggesting is that you really specify the market problem you're addressing, right? And then the benefits you offer would really address that problem. The other thing is to think about what your purpose is. Is it to be more of an objective source? With politics, you get pigeonholed really pretty quickly, right? If you're any kind of media source. And so what is your purpose, and how can you establish that legitimacy? Because oftentimes it'd be like, oh yeah, that's left wing or right wing, I'm not going to listen to them. Exactly. That can happen really quickly too.
And we're the product. We're the product. It's our outcomes as right. Product. So the thing is, you can either be on the side of helping politicians how to craft messages that are much more attuned to what people actually think, because they're able to think about what are their issues on that app. But you also have the flip side, which is better educating who should be the legislators based on the issues that we have, versus having political change. So I do lobbying, and I met with about 160 members of Congress out of the 450. And the one thing that I've noticed is the way to enact change is there. It's possible. You can do it. You can write legislation. A congressman costs about $5,000 to buy off, frankly. So when you start looking into the details, I've been advocating for a lot of reforms, such as changing the way that public schools are funded, as opposed to being funded with property taxes to be funded by a federal budget. I started getting calls back once the riots were happening, once there were stores getting shattered in New York City, where I am. But what I'm trying to say is, politics won't change if, one, there's no impetus to change, but two, if there are no people actually on the ground passing legislation. Because one of the things that surprised me with the BLM movement was the lack of legislation being proposed at the very crucial point where we needed it proposed. So I think that you can also really turn this into a social empowerment tool as well, where now bills are something that you can read as a member of the general public, that is not a hassle to find. Today, you want to go on the congressional website to find a law, it's a hassle.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. We have to go to the next venture, but thanks everybody. Great feedback, and good luck, Anandita. We have John Paul Kambatsa with Logan Ka, I think it's.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
And I will, in about 40 seconds, I'll give you the go ahead to get started.
All right. Can you see my screen yet?
Yep, we got that.
Super. Okay. Hi, I'm John Paul Kambaza with a software engineering background. And together with my co-founder, Karamveer Singh, who has a background in mechanical engineering and supply chain management, we have registered a venture that's hoping to save people like Damini. Damini is that smallholder farmer you're seeing in the picture in her ginger plantation. People like Damini have been forced out of business by bigger farmers and low prices that are not sustainable, and are now forced to either sell out or, like many of them, unfortunately, commit suicide. They kill themselves because they have unsustainable debt burdens. Now we are approaching this from two angles. One, we're looking out for the smallholder farmers, and secondly, we're also looking at the purchasers, most of whom would like transparency and would like to see their dollar spend have impact. All right, the way we are planning to do this is by creating a logistics platform that's it will be a web app connected on the internet, where we on the one hand we have the smallholder farmers organized in farming cooperatives and therefore managing to coalesce their produce. And on the other hand, we have large-scale purchasers. Now we're looking for large-scale purchasers who also have an interest in creating social value or having social impact. All right, so right now, our ask is very simple. We would love to, apart from just mentorship in this space, we would like to be connected to people and organizations that have a specific interest in creating social value or ESG benefits, but also we would love direction in the technologies that we're hoping to implement, namely blockchain and that kind of thing. If you feel inclined to help us out, you can reach out to us on the email, connect@loganka, or to reach me in the US on that number, and Karamveer in India on his Indian number. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure.
So let's get comments from the class. I said class. It's like I'm back to teaching, right? From the audience. So I was just saying that you want to be clear about where you will implement this, at least at first, and
Yes.
especially the particular problem that might exist if it's in India, Africa, or where it is. So especially when you support, like where you're going to go first, support it with very specified evidence that it may be. I had a student that was working on something similar in India, in that there were multiple players in the distribution line that were taking the margin away from the farmers. And that was a big problem, because the transport has to happen over a lot of area. So there's got to be a lot of travel. And oftentimes the farmers don't really have the access to the assets they need for the transport. But it may be a different problem in other parts of the world. And I guess you'd have to address if it is in a region where, you know, there is the ability to have that connectivity would be also important too. And also the other thing I was going to mention too is what partners do you need to engage, right? So there's a lot of logistics. So who are the partners in your supply chain that you need to get on board as well? Okay, other comments?
Yes, I would like to pitch in. So something that you would have to take into consideration also is the increasement in factors of production for such people or communities that do not have access to large technological advancements, and for them to be able to sell their products through an e-commerce. But how would that increase their factors of production, including transportation, technology, electricity, and other factors?
Okay, great. Other comments? Okay. I'm just going to look at the screen here. Okay, good. We still have other participants. Now I can see the participant screen. So other comments? I think we have a few minutes here. You know, another thing that I do want to mention also that, again, learning from my students is the refrigeration too, and the fact that you need to keep the items cold, especially if it's produce, and over the long transportation. I don't know what the length or the time frame is for transportation, but sometimes keeping the cooling could be really important as well. So to avoid, you know, to avoid that spoilage during the logistics. Okay, I think we're going to wait for our signal. And I see that Connor has the next set of slides up.
And can everybody hear me? Does the sound work all right?
Yep, it's perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic. And cool. Can you see my face?
We sure can.
Okay, good. It's
With
so
your blue
important. I
screen
feel like, okay, yeah, I feel like it's so important with these things to have. It's not just a disembodied voice talking at you from your computer screen.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Cool.
All right, so we have Connor Harbison, VRT Farms, and I'm
Yeah.
waiting for a signal, which should come up any second now.
Vert Farms.
Oh, what? I'm sorry, what are they?
Vert Farms.
Revert
Not
Farm.
VRT. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we're at the stop feedback, so we have a little bit of more time.
I'm ready to go. If we want to, I don't want to keep people just sort of sitting there looking at their screens.
Yeah,
These
well,
things can be sort of.
I know. Yeah, we just want to make sure that other people can come into the rooms because some other pitches might be starting. This gives the opportunity for people to move into other rooms. So just staying all on track with the other rooms as well. Okay. All right, you can go.
All right. So a few weeks ago, I hosted a small COVID-safe dinner for a few friends, potluck style. And just having that experience of sharing really good food with really good friends helped catalyze my thinking about something that I had sort of had in the back of my mind for a while. Just thinking about how people might connect through food and have unforgettable experiences, which is so important as we're all so isolated during this pandemic. And this idea I've been working on in this business is called Vert Farms. Vert Farms is a rooftop organic vegetable farm I'm going to build in downtown Boston. We're going to grow 20,000 pounds of vegetables a year and host events like educational events for kids, in-house chef lessons, so you can pick the tomatoes and make your tomato sauce right there. We're going to do participatory CSAs. And the reason I focus both on growing the food and having the events is because I'm focused on having two revenue streams. From all of my time in startups, I know that just having a great idea is not enough. So this winter, I'm going to start growing food in my very apartment where I am right now. And I'm in conversation with Babson College and my apartment building to have small gardens this summer. Following that, during my second year of my MBA program, I'm going to be raising capital and finding a location. You can't just do this anywhere. I need about an acre of rooftop space. And then launching in the summer of 2022. Now, I had a startup before this, and I've coached about 1,000 early stage entrepreneurs. And I know that a team is so important. That's why I'm looking for a just absolute rock star technical co-founder. My ideal co-founder is someone who has deep experience in alternative farming techniques like vertical farming or rooftop or hydroponics. They'll have different life experience than me. There are enough startups out there with a couple white dudes founding them, and Vert Farms is going to be different. Finally, I'm looking for a personality complement to my own. I'm extremely extroverted. Sometimes I get lost in the vision. So I'm looking for someone who can bounce ideas off me and we can work really well together. My name's Connor Harbison. This is Vert Farms. I'm so excited to get into urban farming and connect people through food and fun. I would love to start a conversation with you. My contact info is down at the bottom, so please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you all so much.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Love to hear feedback.
Okay. Comments for Connor?
This is Brad. I don't mind kicking it off.
Sure.
Connor, thank you very much for an interesting presentation. One thing that you might want to consider is reaching out to commercial real estate developers as they're designing new buildings. I think something like this might be of interest, that they could essentially build in upfront that you and potentially partner with VRT or VERT, because this might be something that attracts like-minded residents to live in a particular building and enjoy something like this as well. Just a thought.
Okay, great.
That was brilliant, by the way, from Brad, because there's so many tax credits that you can make buildings eligible for by using your product or by having a vert farm on their roof. So I think the franchise model is a more interesting one for this. You're obviously going to want to do one correctly, but that's how you scale up.
To be clear, it's meant to be scaled. I know I'm not supposed to respond, but.
You know, so, you know, and actually just add on to that, I thought what's interesting is that this is a huge space and it's very interesting. And I would say, as you go along, and I think what Carl and Brad are saying are really helpful, just be open to how this opportunity is going to evolve, right? So you're connected with Babson, so you know the whole ETA method, but, you know, having that vision, overall vision of what you want to accomplish, but how you go about it could go in many different ways. So, you know, working with governments, working with real estate agents, whether it's a franchise, whether it's CSA, you know, where the city residents can have a garden. There's a lot of different interesting ways this could go. The other thing I would say is also really emphasizing your presentation, the social benefit too. And, you know, what are the things that you're doing? Because this definitely has a lot of social elements. And I know I actually had a couple of students doing some similar things, and, you know, they were even thinking like, how could we engage maybe underserved populations to be participants in this? And so a lot of different possibilities. You're in a really great opportunity space. So other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make an addition. I would project in your presentation for the future, I'd project more of the benefits that come along with rooftop gardening. I did a presentation in the past relating to rooftop green spaces, and this one benefit I really found was the energy like reduction when it comes to like energy costs in the building, and also just like there's habitat creation you could do. There's one thing that I found online was that these spaces are creating like environments where bees can like thrive in, and also where other birds can come in and they can act as like kind of island hubs from like top of the buildings to buildings. And I just think it's like there's like a lot of social value that can be created with this, not just for people, but also just for like urban fauna and just flora in general. So that's what I have to add.
That's great, Guillermo. You know, I also had a student that was working, was really more vertical farming, but similar to growing things in a city, and talking about food deserts and how, you know, it's to get fresh vegetables in some cities or parts of cities. So maybe there's a location implication there as well. James Taylor has a comment. You want to talk about that? James is talking about the Boston and the weather. And so there might be.
You could grow potatoes.
Yeah. Right. Although I'm sure you get a lot of sun up there too. And, you know, so yeah, interesting looking at the weather. And is there a way to do it in Boston with, you know, maybe greenhouses or something too? Okay, other thoughts?
If you want to go down the social impact line, it's very important that you measure the difference between the emissions generated of transport from where you get your source of food to how it gets to your Whole Foods, and compare that with the increased energy consumption from building this on a rooftop, because we all know whether it's vertical farming, it's going to demand more energy consumption and more stress from a community that is not a farm, right? If you're on a farm, you can use renewable. You have land to do that, right? when you're in a city, the majority of the sources of energy in that city is actually natural gas. So fossil fuels. So if you really want to go down the social impact piece, I would really be careful on that, on the life cycle emissions piece. With that said, I think that there is something to be said about just a general, on one hand, you have people who want to Instagram everything they do, right? So they want to go to your farm and show themselves, in a healthy environment and all that. So there's there's that piece. But the second piece is also that people want to be more connected to their food, being able to plant their own food and then have to eat their own food. This is something that you see a lot in culture, whether it's Chef's Table or even in other shows. So I definitely think there's a trend you're capitalizing on. I would be very careful before throwing the social impact, just because there's a lot of greenwashing going on.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So we're ready to move to the next one. So good job, Connor. We have Mild Suwan Pinocchio. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. I try very hard to get the pronunciation.
Just go by Mild. It's a nickname. Surname is way too complicated.
Okay. And your business is Reserve. Yes. And so go ahead and pull up your slides.
You guys see it properly? I mean, hold on.
Yep.
Is it full screen? Okay.
Yeah, now it is. Yep. So great. So it should be in just a few seconds. I'll signal you to go.
And my microphone is working fine?
Yeah, it's very good sound.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. At Reserve, we believe that one straw can save the world. That's why we've built a brand that replaces single-use plastics with innovative, stylish, and sustainable products. We're tackling the single-use plastic trash problem because there are 500 million single-use plastic straws being consumed every day, and that's only in the US alone and not even counting other types of plastics. 90% of those don't get recycled and end up in the environment and harming the marine lives. So we believe that everyone can be the positive change that we wish to see in this world, starting from ourselves and our consumption. This patent-pending reusable silicone straw was the first product that we launched last year in Thailand. It has a dual hardness. That means it's softer at the top and stiffer at the bottom so that you can use it to stir the ice. It is also BPA-free, food-grade silicone, sterilizer and dishwasher safe. There is no other silicone straws like ours in the market that offer such high functionality at an affordable price. And since day one, we have received full support from my family business back in Thailand. SK Polymer is a leading OEM mass manufacturer of rubber parts for medical device. That means all Reserve products are manufactured in world-class facilities using only the best materials. And this year, we've expanded to the US market. After receiving countless of requests from our customers, we've launched our second product, which is a bubble tea sized reusable straw, available now on our website for sale. And to allow our customers to conveniently carry our straws with them on the go, we've been working on our latest product, which is going to be a collapsible cup. And we're excited to be launching it on Kickstarter early next year. And we believe it will be a great addition to our brand portfolio. Our ask for you today is please reach out to us if you own or know anyone who owns eco-friendly shops and stores, online or offline, who would like to partner with us. Or if your company would like to customize the carrying bag to be your logo and give away Reserve as a premium promotional product for your customers or partners. That way we can help you be the change, communicate your values, and make a stronger impact to the world. And last but not least, simply follow us on social media. This QR code should cover everything from our website to our Amazon listing. And thank you. We look forward to connecting with you because we believe that sustainability doesn't have to be boring. Reserve makes it beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, comments. Comments from Mild?
Mild, that was a really strong presentation. It's probably the best one I've seen today, so really good job. And I like the fact that you gave us a QR code to keep us engaged. It's always good to connect with potential customers. The one thing I was thinking about is most of that straw waste is probably coming from fast food places and things along those lines. And so I'd always be curious, is there a version of this product that could work in the fast food realm, or is it just too price prohibitive for them?
Yeah, and maybe it's something that you partner with the fast food. I would also emphasize your milestones. So it sounds like you've already achieved a lot, and I would really point those out, make those very clear. Like, what are the things that you've achieved? I know you mentioned that you've got financing and you launched a year ago. I bring out those milestones. The other thing, I didn't really get a sense of who your market was, so I'd want to understand who you're selling to. And I know that when I've had students addressing this, one concern that young people bring out is how do you keep the straw clean? So if it's reusable, you can put it in the dishwasher, but does it really get in there? And I know there's like these little brushes you can put in the straws, that kind of a pain. So that could be even if it could be a perception, that, oh, it's not going to stay clean, but that's something that you want to preempt in your presentation, is to be able to address that. Okay, so other comments?
I'll go ahead and go. Hi, Mild. That was a really fantastic product. I really do like it a lot. During your product, I actually went onto Amazon and found it. So I really like how far you've come within developing the products. And I think that you have a lot of strong points when it comes to the access to the facilities that you have in producing the products. I really love it. I've done things myself about like creating like these green eco-friendly products. I like it a lot. The only thing that I think that you really need to start to explain is that price point. Online, it says $13.99 for, I think it's one straw, and that's pretty steep. Oh, for two straws? Two straws. All right, for two straws, because I found this other brand, which is a similar idea as yours, which is another silicone drinking straw, which is for a set of 10, it's $8.94. So what's driving someone to purchase your product than to purchase, I think this one's called flathead products? Because I feel like, yes, there definitely is an aspect where you can use marketing to your advantage. I mean, we've seen tons of people be really successful with really great marketing plans, but I think really trying to explain, especially to investors, how your product differentiates from everybody else's is going to really differentiate you from the masses.
Okay, great. Okay, other thoughts, other feedback?
Yeah, this is Brad. I can just comment. I posted it in chat, Donna, but the
oh yeah, I see it.
yeah. Mile, just so you know, as someone who used to buy these type of products to sell, there's a international home and housewares show in Chicago. They may be doing something virtually, but if you can somehow, and maybe because you're a student, get affiliated with them or get your products out there, every buyer for every size store for these type of products show up to the show. It is huge, and that could put you in contact with both small kitchen stores and potentially even larger companies who would be interested in something like this.
Yeah, it's also a good opportunity for feedback too, right? So when you're in these shows, you can get a lot of interaction and how, like you said, the companies, but any on the consumer side, which could lead to either your marketing message or the features that you offer, so forth. Okay, other thoughts? It looks like we have a little bit more time, a minute or two. Carl, you're not talking.
Everyone, I was gonna say, I don't know. I don't want people to get tired of me already, but
no, we're not tired, never.
So okay, there are two elements here. I think that the plastic element is I think a wide debate that we need to rethink, because I think single-use plastics are crucially important to our society, which is the reason why during COVID everything that we use is a single-use plastic item for that reason. So I do think I think that the fact that it ends up in the sea is more a statement of how we actually manage our waste versus the merits of plastic. But that's a whole different debate. To come back to what Brad was saying, and I think it's an excellent point, is I would really focus on the home and houseware, because it's really difficult to sell this to a hotel chain, for example. As you said, there's not necessarily clean, as easy, or even just the perception of it does not give that big confidence. But I could be wrong, right? If there are new washing machines that act in a certain way and are able to clean them much more thoroughly, then why not? But the reality is, if I go to a McDonald's, right, and I use that straw, am I going to take it home with me? Put it in my pocket, or am I just going to leave it there? But then, do you really want to have a reusable straw at McDonald's? So those are some. I think you need to do a bit more, and perhaps you did it. We just didn't hear it here. But speaking a bit more to the customers, I feel like you came up with a great product. It's good that you have the advantage of being able to put out multiple products. But from what I gather here, you're not a straw company. You're a general green product company. But there needs to be a bit more reception from customers before you come up with the product.
All right, great. We're going to go to the next pitch. Yeah, good thoughts is great job. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we have Argon.
Yeah.
I know
Sorry,
you're trying to.
Argon is fine.
Okay, and then you have Arbor Impact Management is your
Yes,
venture,
exactly.
and we'll start in probably about 30 or 40 seconds.
Okay, perfect. So you'll tell me when to start then.
Okay.
Can you hear me all right? See me all right?
Yeah, very good.
Perfect.
No pressure, Aragon. No pressure.
Okay, go ahead and start.
All right, I'll start. So we're at the conception stage with my friends at Stanford when we joined forces to enable the Decade of Action. Since then, we participated to the Columbia, Harvard, MIT Accelerator, and we're presenting at Tech Day next week. We must act swiftly. Can I move this? Sorry, excuse me. I'm trying to move. Is this not? Here we go. We must act swiftly if we want to achieve the environmental and social goals by 2030. The United Nations set up this deadline as a wake-up call for everyone to roll up our sleeves and work on practical, sustainable solutions. The data is scary, and if we don't rethink the way we live and we don't rethink our system, we're going to have crises like COVID more often. So who can solve the problem? Any one of us? How? With money. So Arbor's got the solution. At Arbor, we tie a crowdfunding platform to a framework evaluating impact. That impact translates into tokens that can be traded as a hedge against unsustainable activities. And all this data is then fed into a green impact portfolio, like management tool that tracks the user's performance. We believe that locals initiatives are as important as the larger NGOs initiatives. And so we want to allow them to finance their projects by creating that new platform. And we want to fill that $2.5 trillion gap that you can see on this slide by 2030. So you may be wondering how we can have both donors and investors on the same platform. Well, donors can get a certificate for tax benefits in addition to a lot of impact tokens, while investors would get a lot more financial return and fewer impact tokens. So they have the pros and cons. Our business objectives today are really to prove that an unbiased impact framework is possible, as well as making sure that a robust token system works. And from our market research, we found that on the donor side, people would be ready to donate more if they have more stakes and transparency. And on the investor side, if they could get projects that could give them as much financial return. And so we're trying to bring all that into one platform. As you can tell, it's a complex approach. So I'd love any feedback, and please contact me if you have any input. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, comments.
Hey, Argon, this is Zach. I'm glad that you got a lot of traction. I would just rethink the order of your presentation a little bit. I wasn't really sure what the heck you were doing until way late in the game. And so while you have traction, I wasn't sure what that traction meant because you didn't really apply it to the crowdfunding platform. The other thing I'm always thinking about is there's about a 2 trillion crowdfunding platforms out there right now. And while we have Kickstarter and Indiegogo and a few of the others who seem to be doing really well, I'd be thinking about how you can launch this to build up the kind of customer base you need to be successful.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was going to say the same thing. Is just think about how the flow of your story, and you really want to introduce that problem and what you're doing, and then as you close, really establish your legitimacy by the things that you actually mentioned at the beginning. I would also use a little bit less text on your slides. So just think about how you could use graphics more to get your story across. Other feedback?
Yeah, Aragon, it's Brad. Very nice job. The one question I had, it was a little unclear, or to finish the presentation with a clear ask. Like, what are, our audience might be different than another audience that you're pitching, but make sure you have a very clear ask of what you're looking for from the audience. Because it wasn't clear to me whether you're looking for investors or donors, or it was a little, it just got a little fuzzy at the end for me.
Okay, great.
What is the difference, really? What is really the difference? Because you have a lot of these platforms that are now starting to say, here we're also doing ESG now. You have a bunch of, and I referred to it earlier, but you have a bunch of greenwashing out there. What is really ESG? You have green bonds financing airports. So are you coming in to break that cycle, do things differently, and if so, how in your model do you quantify impact?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, maybe studying really all these other solutions, right, that are already out there, and what is it? What can you add for whom, right? What can you do differently? And it looks like there's a, more starting down the opportunity corridor. You're going down this corridor and learning, and then eventually just finding that focus that you can really add and in this space, enable you to be able to compete. All right, any other comments? We got a couple more minutes.
I feel horrible because it's not questions, they're just feedback. So I was hoping for an answer.
Yeah.
Mais Aragon, n'hésite pas à m'appeler, y a pas de souci.
Yeah, well, part of the reason that we ask the presenters not to comment back is sometimes you could have just one question and it takes up the whole 5 minutes. So, and also too, if somebody is questioning something, that could mean a few things. It could mean I need to take a particular next step. I need to address, this is telling me what I need to do next. Or it could mean that I need to build something to my presentation that preempts this question. Or it could identify a way that I need to either pivot or adjust my opportunity. So questions are also really great. And it's funny, it's not necessary to have them answer, but think about what are the implications that behind somebody asking a particular question. All right. Any other comments? Excuse me, your thoughts? Okay. That's a great opportunities. There's a lot of a very interesting space that everybody is in. Lots of opportunities. Okay. All right, why don't we get Evan? Do we have Evan here with Watermill?
I'm ready to share if
Oh,
you're
I see
ready
it.
for me.
Sure, you can start getting set up. I haven't gotten the message yet that oh, I just got it. Okay, good. Go ahead and set up, and it'll be about another minute that I'll signal you to start.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen and me? Just to check.
Yeah, that's great. We can hear you very well.
Thank you. Just to say, it's been great to watch everybody's ideas today. It's really
I
neat.
know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You learn from your own pitch and the comments you get, but you also learn just from everybody else, because everybody has slightly different approaches and things they need to do, things they've done well. That's great.
It was a phenomenal opportunity for sure.
All right, you can start.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Evan. I'm here representing the rest of my team to explain Watermill. Watermill is a hydropower retrofitting company offering a resilient solution to the increasing demand for clean energy. In the United States today, there are 3,025 non-energy producing dams. A lot of these are not particularly positive sites, but as a whole, they represent roughly the daily consumption of energy from New York City. Combined with the increased need for renewables, the high energy consumption that's only growing, and increasing government mandates, there's a very unique problem set that Watermill is positioned to take advantage of. Watermill, by retrofitting these sites, represents a low cost and high yield opportunity, represents an opportunity for grid resilience without many ecological negative impacts that other hydro sites produce, and represents an energy storage capability. I have to click, I'm sorry. The initial project and market for Watermill is based on securing a combination of fund base of investment and grants and incentives, working on a site selection algorithm that is based on filtering out sites that are ecologically not positive and that do not have the opportunity in the market. Combining new tech such as high-end turbine technology, which is being developed in some places, with higher-end construction management skills, developing our power purchase agreement and the possibility of microgrid models, permitting and developing key partnerships, and then owning and operating. The market itself in the US of those 3,025 dams represents roughly $1 billion in annual revenue. We're targeting the Northeast as part of our site selection and trying to narrow down 127 particular dams to look at our slice of that 329 million in annual revenue. Watermill now, today, we have a solid foundation. We are 6 veterans that started this project at Stanford Ignite. We have a significant advisor network in this space that we work with on a daily basis. We have validated financial models for both 1 project tracks and owning and managing 3 to 5, and then scaling beyond that. And we are working and very close to perfecting our site selection data algorithm to help narrow down the first project site. Our next steps are to seek the previously mentioned grant opportunities, incentives, and secure funding. We are looking to partner with a hydroelectric technical advisor or somebody very, very experienced in the complex permitting role, both federal, state, and local levels for hydro permitting. And we have developed a look at our initial ask of 1.7 million for the initial project runway permitting and site development. And that is Watermill, and that's our goal.
Thank you. Let's start our feedback. Anybody want to start off?
I have a question, I guess. So your company has I got from this presentation that your company has a pretty solid foundation. I'm not very in the know when it comes to this market, the watermill hydropower market. So like, I guess just asking for clarification, what is your UVP over all your competitors? Like, what would you say separates you from other companies doing similar things? Are other companies doing similar things? I don't know.
Okay, yeah, and our presenters don't answer the question, but that was a good question. I was actually thinking, like, I wanted to understand really how it works, like a diagram or a graphic about how this work might be really helpful to get it across. You know, does it involve governments and who is, you know, who is involved? You also, in this slide here, you mentioned a solid foundation. It would be really good to add real evidence, right? So you say, I have a good advisor network. So, you know, who are those advisors? Validated financials. So, you know, it's kind of like you're saying that you have these things without real evidence of what that is. So you may want to be more specific, and so that you're backing it up with evidence. The other thing I was wondering too is you were talking about geographic location. Are there particular dams, like smaller dams? You know, are there characteristics of certain dams that might make your model more viable or feasible to start with? So you could also talk about that. Other comments or questions?
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know how many people are in the renewable or green energy space on this call, but at least for me, when I see this type of presentation, first of all, I want to know: are we talking about hydro, or are we talking about tidal? Are we talking about putting turbines under the water under Roosevelt Island like Verdant Power does in New York City, or are we talking about building a dam? Because that has very different environmental implications and cost implications, especially. The second thing is, I know that $1.7 million is for the initial permitting, but permitting and site development is nowhere under $100 million for the actual facility, depending again on what you're talking about. So being able to perhaps understand where this 1.7 million sits in your overall path would be very important. Especially in this space, investors are worried about dilution and long-term investment. So how are they going to be able to minimize dilution over time? Grant opportunities is a way to do that. So it's good that you put that really at the forefront. When you're looking for hydroelectric partners, don't hesitate to reach out to me. But obviously, I'd love to get a better sense of what it is that you're trying to do. Is it actually being a developer, a power plant developer, or is it about being a facilitator where you connect the hydro companies with the utilities that already have an existing infrastructure and you're just retrofitting? Because that's a very different model, and that's also a very different permitting process.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Zach. Yeah, great.
I was just going to build upon, you have thrown us a lot of stuff, and there's a few things that I think are probably critical as I understand your business, and maybe listening to Carl, I don't quite understand it. But my understanding is that you're going to retrofit existing dams to generate power through water mills. And so the site selection algorithm is probably the key part of this business, if I understand the business correctly. And I would have liked to see a use case illustrate what is in here. Like, we need a dam that's this big. We need it to be this close to the grid. We need to have governments that allow electricity to go into the grid. and those kinds of issues. And I think that use case would have maybe really helped to drive home and made this more concrete. Now, again, that was my interpretation of what you said, but listening to Carl, I could be totally misinterpreting what you said.
Hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not familiar with this area either, but I did do a little bit of research in the solar industry. And I suspect this is similar, that the value chain, right? There's a lot of activities and a lot of places to play. And one question I have is whether there's a piece that's more viable for you to be playing with, to be playing in, and does it make sense in terms of your team capabilities or some other proprietary reason, and who else needs to be playing to make sure that that whole system works? It's really seems like a lot of steps in this area.
One thing I'll add, even Evan, is there's also a decision to make as to whether or not you want to be the mapping software or if you want to be actually in hard tech. And the reason why I say this is, quite frankly, I've been speaking quite a bit on the path, and everyone, don't hesitate to interrupt me. It's just really difficult to start a hard tech business within the Babson community, because you don't have a whole lot of mentors that you can go to. Everyone will be wanting to help you and everything, but you're facing a difficult issue, which is you don't have a whole lot of people in this space that are giving you feedback recurringly. So it's important that these events happen, but would preface all my criticism with respect. Same thing with Alex that came earlier. You guys are working on hard tech, and I think this is something that we really need to do at Babson if we are to be social entrepreneurs and really have an impact. We can't just be creating apps. So much respect for what it is that you're trying to do.
No, thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great job, Evan. And yeah, I mean, continue to think about the piece where you can play and where you can add your specific value. I think that's great. Okay, I think we had Aaron Murray. You might be a late entry or maybe moved from another room, but is Aaron here? I didn't have you down at first, but I see that. Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, it isn't. It was from Aaron is in another room. So great. So we're actually done with this room. Just want to thank you guys. Really great array of presentations, different stages of research and shaping in these opportunities, but you're doing a great job. And I wish all of you the best of luck in moving your opportunities forward.